The place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Well, we're talking about teach you on terms today is October 2025. This is 1089 of Living Tennessee. So Tuesday, which is back to go the fall and some big changes due to copyright reasons. So now we are in Christmas season. Christmas is Halloween right now, but people are increasing coffee in the fall as well as ready for holiday things. So we have a number of customers as well as it's hard, especially when running anyway, Tuesday means I don't go into the day with for on shipping, so I like to do it. These going backwards or it's you Sunday I was willing out by it should not go in and out because of sort of internet I believe okay, so hopefully that's just a great orchard moment. We're gonna talk about there. We're gonna talk about organizing a farm to table dinner for one. Not because it's advertised all the time, but we're hard to dinner that also our usual Monday segments. Okay. Yeah, tip my tell me for getting the word audio in it too. Before we that with the first is featured they was not the farm table dinner number you put the show the super cool coming right here at Holler in Lancaster. What happening is we doing demonstration of using chainsaw. So that Potluck has up. If wants for that link to go to the then we're not be people now who Sunday, and if you also get the address sent to you, which is pretty good. So I'm getting notice here that my audio is bad. Why is my audio bad? Does it get louder when I get closer? It does on my end. So that's just really strange. You know, StreamYard has had some issues. William says 5 out of 5. So you just said it was no good. Do I need to be closer to the mic? Is that what's happening here? People on the audio podcast are going like, this is no fun for us because we're not seeing this happen live. So anyway, that event's over at livingfreeintennessee.com. Chainsaw milling demo, Sunday, the 19th of October at the Basecamp Lodge, 1 hour east of Nashville, not too far off of I-40. I also have 2 sponsors to thank today. First, I want to thank Agorist Tax Advice, agoristaxadvice.com. That's right. Matthew Sursley, who I just talked with last week about some things I needed to go over with him. And apparently I sounded like a robot earlier, so that's going to be fun. I think that was an internet accessibility issue, and it could be on my side. Anyway, agoristaxadvice.com, Matthew Sursley works with you to plan out your finances from the standpoint of how to best structure yourself for tax purposes. So what you do is you present to him everything you're doing, let him look at your tax returns and whatnot, and he helps you decide, do I need to be an S corporation? Do I need to be an LLC? Is this a partnership? Do I need to do something else? He has a really great background in various different things, including he runs his own real estate business. So he has some base knowledge in multiple areas, which really helps him come up with a holistic approach for you. Then he talks about tax write-offs that are available to you, how to track them, any risks associated with them so that you can move forward. Check that out, agristaxadvice.com/LFTN for Living Free in Tennessee. And you can use that link to sign up for his email, get a download of common tax write-offs, how they work, how to track them, that sort of thing. One of the hidden benefits of working with somebody like Matthew is you have to get all of your financial ducks in a row to communicate with them about what's going on. So that means that you get to get your ducks in a row, which means then you have better information about the finances at your business. And it means that you're more prepared to do cool things like, oh, I don't know, get your taxes filed on time and all those other things. So for me, what that has meant is easier to make decisions about how things are priced and where to put my energy. Because the thing that became starkly obvious to me once I got into the whole arrangement with Matthew was like, oh, I spend a lot of time here and it doesn't bring in much money, and I spend almost no time there and it brings in more money. So maybe I should do, the thing where I spend more time on the thing that makes me more money. So that's sort of the deal. And that's just sort of a hidden benefit of working with somebody like Matthew. So if you are going to work with somebody like Matthew, why not check out one who supports the podcast that you love, agristaxadvice.com. Our second sponsor of today's show is Holler Roast Coffee. It's Christmas season. It's time to start thinking about all the people you love, and what better thing to give them to keep clutter from building up in their life than something consumable like freshly roasted coffee to order. Hollerroast.com has that. We are about to add a really cool thing that I'm going to say to you now on the podcast, but I'm not really talking much about it publicly because I don't know which day it will launch. But we have coffee tins coming out. Think like Maxwell House tin and not like the Bean Barrel, which was a storage container that we did last year. And that's a really cool way to package it. It will be available year round, but it's launching probably in a few weeks. And that allows you to have coffee roasted to order packaged in a tin. It has a CO2 lock so that, the CO2 escapes without the tin exploding. And that is a way to seal in freshness for a longer period of time, first of all. Plus, you get a tin with a lid to store it in next to your coffee maker. And it's branded with Holler Roast. So, it's printed up, looks nice. Check those out at hollerroast.com. Keep your eye out. If you're not on the email list for Holler Roast, you can sign up for that at hollerroast.com, and that'll just sort of keep you informed on when that really cool item shows up. I kind of foreshadowed that on Tuesday Live last week, but I didn't know for sure if it was going to work out. And it was a group effort. Basically, there were two ways to seal the can, and I was looking for a can sealer, right? A tin can sealer, which, just picture me cranking that wheel all through the fall as we get these things produced for people. But the one that we have coming allows me to seal on the actual lid, like seam it like you would a tin can of soup or something. And I tested it today, which is why I wasn't really willing to start talking about it till I knew if we were going to do that kind of closure or there's a stick-on closure you can do. I like the durability of the can seamer better than the stick-on, although the stick-on's fine. So that's coming out, and I'm super excited about it. So, support that effort if tins are something you've been interested in getting your coffee packaged in. I also want to remind you that the Living Free in Tennessee Stocking Exchange is coming to a close for sign up. So the link is in the show notes. And if you're on the live stream, you're going to have to go to livingfreeintennessee.com to get that link. I'm also going to bring it up as a highlight on the homepage, not until tomorrow, because I am levitating to town right after the show to meet a bank deadline. I went to town yesterday to do a wire transfer to pay a bill that I can only pay with an ACH, and we have to do that in person. And it turns out yesterday was a holiday. Who knew? I certainly didn't, apparently. So everything was closed that I tried to do yesterday. It was sort of amusing because I went to town so early, and then we're like, well, we've got an extra hour in town right now because of what I did. Anyway, the Living Free in Tennessee Stocking Exchange is being coordinated by Margot. And if you're on the Telegram group, you can totally just ask for the link right now and somebody will probably give it to you. But sign up. November 1st is when we do the sort of the secret stocking Santa assignment, which sounds really funny because of the double meaning of the word stocking to me. And so basically you need to get your stuff in before November 1st. So I'm going to say October 31st is probably the cutoff. I'm not sure if that's the official cutoff that Margot has. She's the one who's been putting the effort in. And what you do is you sign up, you fill out some preferences, then you're going to be assigned somebody. You need to mail your stocking by December 1st. And if you want, I have that she got closed out last year. We started talking about that. So I asked her on a because I had the free. It's something made a handwritten card or recipe, so other things. We okay. Next up, this is where we talk about using and store and really in the digital essentially, and this is pretty much that. So we have a lot of really going through the amateur people or for me at the and then there are I have years before my parents or I'm too, but and then we also have the house of so at the point there is going to be a lot of the user space, right? But we're also that point we're doing like I don't know, 6 sets of not the kind of lollipop buttons try to see the burst, right? Just where you one and but it's that much online as so I put in because I need to, and then I ended up getting figured out, and I put in garlic and that and it would cause this bones. And it was like that he ate 4 of the pick racks and came to had so that nothing. Well, that really nice meal where I didn't have to do anything with the with me yesterday, like you don't really then I also end up having an easy meal. Today we're doing using up the rest of the week, and so I'm doing ground beef and the ground beef is a lot to make it and that for being me for meatball or hamburgers, and those are all exactly the same. I'm making a taste blend, right? And as a result of that, I will be able to add this if I want to eat more. Mixing the beef and ground pork into one with spices this time. So that's the deal there. I am hearing that we still have some phantom audio issues. I'm sorry about that, guys. If my audio file for the actual podcast is also bad, I'll end up re-recording this. I am not seeing any way to change the setting of the quality of the video to an even lower quality right now. But let me see if I can. Over here, standard definition, low definition. Changed it to low definition just in case that helps with the audio. We will see. It is what it is. StreamYard's been going through some growing pains, and it's possible we'll be moving to Restream, or it's a bandwidth issue and I just fixed it. So let's hope that that worked. And I appreciate all 4 of you who have stuck with me. We had people pour in and pour out because they couldn't handle it, and I get it. So hopefully the recording isn't completely negatively affected. If it is, I'll end up pre-recording to this point, and if it's good from here on, it'll be great. Okay, next up, I wanted to talk about what we're doing with our fall herbs. So we've been blessed to not have an early October freeze, because it could have started freezing anytime beginning of October. And it hasn't yet. It doesn't look like one's in our near future, which means I've had time to go around and cut some herbs. And because it's after Self-Reliance Festival, I'm a little busy just with catch up and getting ready for the Christmas season and blah, 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 and people coming through the Airbnb and events coming up and the farm to table dinner, like all of those things. But I've managed to dry mint, oregano, and holy basil. Holy basil actually was processed by the farm sitter who was here while we were at SRF. So I'm really thankful for that, for winter teas. So pretty much what I'm doing is when I have extra time, I'm either working on the winter is coming projects, which means moving firewood around, making sure that things are going to freeze are not up, like the shower head has to be removed from the outdoor shower and stored in Basecamp basement. Stuff like that. Taking the outdoor sink out. We just put the whole sink in storage for the winter so we don't like end up messing up the faucet. We used to just take the faucet out, but it actually is easier to take the whole sink out, and it's not like I'm using it anyway in the winter. So doing those sorts of things, and also plant things. So I have some fall garden things have been gone in. I have not harvested my sweet potatoes yet, so that's going to happen. And then I get to decide which bed I'm going to put the garlic in. So we need to get the garlic in, hopefully before I go to Spirko's workshop. But then if I'm honest with myself and realistic, it's very likely it will be after his workshop, but around Thanksgiving, which has happened in the past. But really, if I can get it in earlier and mulched with some leaves, I get bigger, better garlic. So those sorts of things are happening. And why do I bring that up under pantry? Well, because I am garlic independent, right? So garlic I took out of the ground goes back in the ground, and then I get more garlic, and then I have the garlic that we need for the year. So this year I was cutting it a little close, and I may end up doing 2 beds of garlic this year. I'm using my raised beds for the first time. Last year I did, and I did 1 raised bed of garlic, and that worked pretty well, but I feel like 2 beds of garlic works. And then I planted after the garlic, I put sweet potato slips in, like they were already in right before the garlic harvest so that they would have time to establish themselves. And that rotation worked pretty well, because once you have sweet potatoes somewhere, they kind of take over the world. So, but that's a way that we can get it going. Roar Tribe says, we need to get to garlic independence here. That's a great goal for the next year. Yeah. And it's like garlic independence, as long as it's growing successfully at your homestead, it's not that hard, because it's such an easy crop to grow unless you live in one of those places where it doesn't grow. So other than that, we're moving one of our freezers to Basecamp basement, which will be the one out of which people get their lamb. So there's like clear separation between what's mine and what's for sale, just in case there's ever an unfortunate incident where somebody comes in here who I don't want to be here. But, you know, every so often the inspector arrives, as Dawn Gorham has learned. Like, she had a surprise unannounced visit where somebody just let them into her place to look at her milk share project. And she only sells milk share. Like, I can't buy her milk unless I'm a milk share member, right? Even me as a friend can't do that. So it's kind of a bummer, because they pissed her off. And now she's like, okay, all of the milk producers need to organize, because apparently a number of inspections have happened recently. It's like they want to crack down on this whole raw milk thing. So it's time to start the counter narrative about why people want access to real food, because attacking real food is not what we need in this economy right now, right? I am hoping we'll get a venison this year. We will see. And that's pretty much it from the pantry. Next up, I have a frugality tip from Margo, and she says this. Did you know that if you put something in your online cart at Amazon and some other online stores, when the price changes, you get a notification via email? So if you're looking to buy something in particular and it's a little out of your budget, put it in your cart and you may get a notification that it's gone down. And guys, especially at this time of year, that happens. So also when looking around on eBay, go ahead and click that heart. A lot of sellers will send you a discounted offer just for liking them. So have a little patience and wait and see if you can save a few dollars on that thing you don't have to have this moment, but that you may want to have in your life. Next up, Operation Independence, where we talk about building local ongoing revenue into our lives. And this, so I've been doing a presentation about the homestead revenue stack. And the irony is, it's in a year where I've pulled back on some of the things we're doing here that bring in some money because I want to concentrate on things that bring in more money for my time so that we are more financially stable here. Okay. And as a result of that, I've actually pulled back on revenue, but I have more time. And y'all may not see that I have more time because probably in the last 6 weeks I haven't. Self-Reliance Festival just takes the time it takes, and it takes a lot of time. So that's been really good for me because I've had time to step back and really be able to track things better and then build into that homestead revenue stack. Paired with that, I've done an analysis of a number of homesteads that are profitable, not profitable, and on their way to being profitable. And they share some characteristics. So that now traditional to I continue to work on schedule, schedule, and stay healthy. I change that over there, here, back here, and around next, right? I do that's really for me over a long time. Has been related to short-term vacations, long-term rentals, and if I would have on that 10 years ago, I would probably have bigger than there than I do right now. We do have the stories, but which we're not doing there. We use it as and I use it for the houses to be able to have access to available rent in that time. And left, and I was driving to technical to drop off my car, which is in County Burn, and in like on the way in, I ended up doing like to have Airbnb Basecamp Airbnb. I opened up started tomorrow that if you look got hold on maybe stay there, right? Well, he's like, yeah, but I opened up 3 and at 4 it was to kids. They're coming to the area um, to basically and going to it was like also got to see here and we made on that rental for basic so hopefully when in a month then we can for which helps my whole not great that but some rental in the area and then it's basically that we need to monetize on rentals and in place there and tell you everything that I've actually been offering bedroom for rent at it's can be furnished or not furnished. These things we're going to do is that we have on the schedule, which means a couple of days on whether we go through the thing and occasionally like the dinner, the chef's be in the room. Then we know it as being case and study have 3 or 4 months if they're looking for place. But it's not at home base. And much of it, I think I'll come to the kitchen and I'll do me whatever. So you in a little bit, which is having So anyway, here the person be for that is probably someone who's that's not something I am planning to put out on in normal rental channels. So I have gotten word that the audio is back to robot mode, and I'm just hoping it records well, because if it doesn't record well, then we're going to do a do-over on this show tomorrow. If it does record well, I'll be able to download the video and re-upload it to YouTube, and then hopefully that will fix the whole thing. So with that, it is time for the main topic of today's show, and that's organizing a real farm-to-table dinner. And I wanted to do this show a while ago because we are doing one on November 15th, right? But I have never organized a farm-to-table dinner. So why would I be willing to do it now? Well, I can say this. At the Holler Homestead, we almost always serve a farm-to-table dinner when we have an event. Early on with our events, we didn't. We sourced a lot of things at the grocery store and other places. But as we've become more successful in growing food and made more connections in the Homestead Network, and more of y'all have just come out to our meetups and gotten to know me, well, then I know I can source things from your farm. And I would much rather feed people the real food we're teaching them how to grow and process than have a bunch of pre-made Stouffer's mac and cheese or whatever, right? Although actually when I serve mac and cheese, it's totally store-bought stuff because that's not something I do from scratch. So yes, Pippinize, the minute you say something about the audio, it does go back. So just every time it goes bad, just say something about it and then maybe it'll come back. So anyway, the reason we decided to do one this year is we want people to start connecting really with their food. We want to be a catalyst for that in our community here, not just in my region, but I'm starting in my region, but statewide, because there are a number of farm to table events that are not really farm to table. They're kind of farm to table. So what I'm looking for is a real farm to table experience. And I went to one in Maine that was really awesome. And they make their own cheeses there. And so they had a cheese pairing with every course. Very cool. One of my favorite experiences there was that farm to table dinner. And it was a friend who took me there. So Barb, thanks for that experience. But what I mean by a farm to table dinner is a community meal that's basically built from local homesteaders and farmers, stuff that's in season and cooked by people who understand how to cook those ingredients. And so organizing that kind of thing ends up with extra layers of complication. But I knew when I went into this that I could do it even if I was the one who put it together, because I cook like that all the time. The key is to not have too many people that you're feeding in that situation. A. B. Emily Hoff from Hoff Grid Homestead has heard us talking about the Holler Hub and all the things we're doing here, and about organizing some of the women homestead business people together for us to sort of toss back and forth what is challenging for us versus what is not. And she was like, I've always wanted to do a farm to table dinner somehow. And I was like, well, I know what you do to raise all of your awesome meats over at your homestead, and adding a layer of farm to table dinner sounds complicated to me, but we're doing events here all the time. So I was like, I'm going to do a farm to table dinner. And I just had faith that she would let me build her farm into this dinner. And so before having the show, I did have a talk with her to make sure that we're all on the same page, because I had already built a menu based on what I already know she grows. So, and one of the things about working with Emily that I appreciate is she understands how when you're focused in a deliverable deadline driven situation, like she's bringing 10 pigs to butcher today. So if you want to buy a whole pig, now's a good time to reach out to her, right? Or she'll have a bunch of by the cut pigs, but if you don't get your cut sheet in now, then she's putting her cut sheet in, and then it's whatever she chooses, and it's USDA versus not USDA processed, which is not a very big cost difference at her butcher. But anyway, I just had faith she'd be okay with it. And so I put some initial description out. I worked with a chef on what the menu would be and what the pricing should be based on what he needs to get paid for this one. I talked to Carrie Brown about making it more than just a farm to table dinner, right? But having that pre-event wild edible thing. So a farm to table dinner is harder than a typical event, but I think it's well worth doing because as we produce these things we want people to use, they need to learn how to cook with them too, because they're used to getting stuff that's partially processed at the grocery store. Like they're literally used to taking a handful of greens, not even washing them, throwing them in a bowl, and that's a salad, right? Well, I harvest lettuce and I have to wash it and I have to trim off any figgly bits. And then I can finally, after drying it through a salad spinner, I can use it in a salad. So the harder thing is that a farm to table dinner that's a real one is not centered around convenience food. Now, some producers may do some initial processing for you, particularly on salad greens, because they understand that that's what people are used to getting, but they might not, right? You might just get a head of lettuce and you need to make sure, especially if it's organic, there's no weird bugs or slugs on there because nobody wants a bug or slug in their food, right? But if you've lived on a farm long enough, occasionally the one gets by you. So you got to be extra careful with things like that. So you have to find a chef that is willing to work with things that need more processing, willing to process raw ingredients, not anything that's like pre-trimmed or par cooked. They have to take it, and if par cooking is what they want to do to serve it, they par cook it and then bring it, right? So an example of that would be if we were serving potatoes, they want to par cook the potatoes and then finish them off here, but he would want to par cook the potatoes in his commercial kitchen before coming here because that would make it easier than doing it in Basecamp kitchen, for example. And it saves on a lot of time. Otherwise, he needs to be here maybe a day before, maybe 2 days before the whole meal. So that's one of the things that makes it harder than your typical event. The other thing that makes it harder is almost every single ingredient is sourced directly from a farm. And it's not through a distributor that sources it from the farm. Although we do have some farm to table distributors here, I don't know any well enough to know that I'm really getting what I'm getting. And if one of them is listening to this and is like, Nicole, I've reached out to you before. I'm sorry, it's been a really tough couple of years and I've forgotten, and I would love to hear from you again. And it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. But that means if I did not already have relationships with enough farmers to make this happen, we couldn't make it happen. It would be a lot of time sourcing. So if you're going to set one up, give yourself time to figure out who the farmers are that you can source from, who are really doing it you want to. Because they're not the domestic farm table. I think that these another one is that you need the time right. Okay. Remember, you know what is going over 15, you watch. When definitely, but is all the time. Or I literally have butter on with. And there is a possibility that if we were to do an outside, this right, because exactly it's gonna have all of it. That's the thing. So, you do it around a big box store, you just when you want can see that for the I don't have to have this right, but I have so you put that in December additional like a lot of traditional cookie recipes don't have it in the happens in stop producing some more recipes. So really, I think it's hard to do it, and it's harder to do. I think get Costco, everything, including the herbs that I can local. And the coffee, of course, come home. Obviously, I did sort of pepper, I did to learn. And so I know we'll hold our hands up. It's like, here, that so that to the market. So our farm table that's thing wrong. So one of the things to do is farm to table in the moment. And then the have a token local producer, and that's it. And then they rely heavily on the restaurant suppliers or Costco or Walmart for all of the other ingredients, right? Like they're not trying to source their flour from Farmer's Storehouse. They're trying to source their flour from the store because all they're doing is highlighting that one pork chop you can get from a local meat producer, for example. And I think that means they miss a deeper connection to tell the story of the local food network and local abundance that's available, and timing of why we chose these things for this one in November and the one in February is going to be completely different things. And then the one in May is going to do different things. Because I think if this goes well, I think we should be doing at least a quarterly farm to table dinner to highlight the seasonality of a culinary experience, right? And a lot of other farm to table ones don't do that, or they ship it in from farms all over the country, not farms here where you are. Or they find a farm to partner with and it's $500. And I mean, having put this one together, I get why it's $500. They're also serving alcohol with it. So something we figured out is don't serve alcohol with it for a number of reasons, one of which is regulatory, right? You can BYO whatever, but we are not dealing with licensure on alcohol. And also, we don't want people leaving the farm at night having had too much to drink, right? There's a whole other layer to that. So it's not about how much alcohol can we build in. It's about how do we have a wonderful culinary experience and hear about all these farms. And then hopefully people will connect with those farms at the dinner and maybe tap into that resource in their community, because I think that would be really cool as an outcome of that. So that's sort of the background of the farm to table experience that we envision here. And as I said, I really had a pretty good experience of this in Maine at one I went to, and we have modeled after that. So the other thing is go to some farm to table dinners and see what you like and what you don't like if you're going to organize one, and talk to organizers. Some people are not willing to talk to you, but I can tell you that if you come to one of my meetups, it's a really good time to talk to me about things, as long as I'm not teaching. I'm willing to be transparent about how much money it cost, how much effort it took, because I think if we are able to get 20 people in, which is my goal, we will have a couple of staff for serving. We will have the chef. We're going to have to also clean up. We are not eating the meal with y'all. We're going to be there just as staff, because that's how I get the staff done. And at the end of that, I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet and say, okay, for like the volunteer staff, like I'm a volunteer staff for this. How much should I have made for the night? Like reasonable pay for somebody doing dishes and serving things, which is what I'm going to, and hostessing or whatever. That's one. And what does that really look cost-wise? So, because I'll talk about how we set our ticket price this time, and we will, because that's part of organizing it, but also you need to create a buzz. So there's sort of this chicken and eggs thing going on. I got a farm reference in there. So the steps to organizing one is source the food, build relationships with your local growers and producers, and just get to know what they have when. Tell them you're thinking about doing a farm to table dinner in the next year, and you just want to understand the seasonality of their product because you want to highlight real farms from the real area as you wish, right? Second, you need to find a venue. And that can be a little tricky because what you're talking about doing is catering a meal somewhere. So you have to work with a venue that's willing to let you do that and not work with their caterer, because you're going to have to do the third thing: source somebody who can cater that meal. Like, you need a special kind of chef for that, unless you are the chef. I happen to be really good friends with somebody local who loves cooking farm to table. I think if he could have any restaurant he wanted, he would be like, I went to the market today, I got these things, and this is what you're getting. That's how he would run it. And you would have to reserve in advance so he knew how many there were. And he has a vast knowledge of different ways of preparing things. Well, I've also talked to other chefs around the country who I'm friends with who are interested in this, if we can get the right price point for the experience. So you need one you need a venue that's that's scenic, functional for cooking and serving. If you're gonna open it up to wheelchair accessibility, it needs to be accessible. Mine is not that. I'm like, we could carry somebody up the stairs, but there are stairs. And that's something actually I should make sure is clear in the description for this. And then you want to create a semi-flexible menu with the chef that you have identified that you're working with, unless you are the chef, and base it on what the farms that you already have contacts with actually will have that week. So for ours, it's November 15th, and it's primarily meat and root vegetable based for the menu, for the like stuff that I know we have. And then farmer's platter, meaning I can source some cured meats from a local farm producer and other pickled items from other local farm producers. I already know I can get all that. I am lacking a good cheese farm. So I can make cheese, but I don't have time to make all the cheese. So I would like to add some cheeses that aren't just cheddar from California. So I would like somebody here who makes cheese here that we can highlight in the meal. That's one of my open points. And if we don't find one, then you're getting feta that I made. That's what's happening. But you want to base that meal with a basic structure and then have some flexibility built in. So what I've said is this is the menu subject to change based on what's available that week. And I've already talked to the chef, to Chef Brett, about what are we going to do if something's not available. Now, I know the meats are available. I know the butternut squash is available. I know the greens are probably available unless there's a crop failure. And I know that we can get Jerusalem artichokes. The question is, will we get them in time? That's one of the sort of gray areas. And I know I can source potatoes because I've already sourced potatoes if we want to add those or not. Not really, for example. And there, I don't know what for the look like. For what can be fresh, for the what for show is for we already for other thing I have in that is depending on the mushroom with the so it's like that how I that I have pieces already from a local permission. But it's, you know, you can well have time to and have enough producers you're around to help this flexible. And I think it's really good idea to make an experience. That's why we added the walk. So this is connected with food. This is where the food, you know, is the middle and that sort of thing. Then here's the hard part, guys. You got some tickets. That support from the farm tickets that for city bucks. You store for farming what it's gonna be over for me for sure. And some retailers do like put a goal. We're not reaching it. It costs $500 basically for the and then so that actually helps keep the continue to tell you very important. Making money is not a restaurant, is that venue. So like, I just based in that variation. That's it. Maybe do it in the summer when vegetables are really ill next year. If and down. Right now it's good time of the it just thinks it's a lot harder unless you have process from then you to handle set up how you can table, what's the flow here, the bathroom situation versus the abuse that's been, how you get seating and lighting, how you cooking the shop that you have all of the service letters, all that stuff you have to clean up, have and then you can have things, all those things. I think that's a pretty comprehensive. I am very if there's somebody with a dairy allergy, then we'll just on theirs not put it in. And I am going to figure out how to turn off my video. There you go. So I don't know if that improves the audio, but we think it's a bandwidth issue. Hopefully I'll be able to re-upload this. Okay. So then the last thing is explore the legalities. I'm doing a private event that people can pay to come to that includes catering. The catering is the farm to table menu, right? And as near as I can tell, I don't need additional, I've done my due diligence, don't need additional permitting for that unless I bring in alcohol. And so which is why we made that decision. In addition to that, you can get event insurance at eventhelper.com. So if you're worried about liability, that's a good way to set it up. If you don't already have a corporation set up as a layer of protection, good time to talk to agrostaxadvice.com and see what his thoughts on that are. So that's basically the steps to setting it up. So let's talk about pricing and profitability. How do you price the tickets so you don't lose money when sourcing locally and cooking from scratch? You get your chef to tell you how much they're going to charge you, which my chef has been very reasonable for this one, which means this is the one, if you're going to come, you should get a ticket to, because I won't be surprised if ticket price goes up, right? Second, have an idea of the base menu, which means you can source what this is all going to be at quantity and divide by the number of tickets. Now, I don't assume, I'm actually pricing it for 10 to 12 and making 20 tickets available. And I don't want to serve more than 20 people because that's just too many people to have to manage at the venue that we're at, right? So I could make it bigger at a different time of year if we could eat outside, and then I might do a lunch instead of a dinner, right? So then you got to factor in any venue rent and staffing costs in addition to that, and your time, and you put it all in a spreadsheet, and then you divide it by the number of tickets you think you're going to sell, and then you add some profit margin to that. 10 to 20% would be what I would add, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you need to buy things like tablecloths, for example, which I don't need to buy, but that's because I've already bought them for a different reason, it's gonna increase your cost. Or if you need to rent them, like if you're just doing it one time as a one-off, you're gonna end up renting them. So once you have that, you divide it and you see what that cost is with some profit built in. You always need to build profit in, guys. And then you look at that number, and then you go out and you look at your local market, high-end restaurants, you look at other farm-to-table events in your state, that sort of thing, and see, do those numbers gel? And if they do, if you're like below the typical farm-to-table price, which when I went out to look was under $100, then you should at least go up to that $100 or whatever. I'm above it. I'm above the typical average price I've seen in Tennessee, with the exception of some higher end events. And I decided I was okay with that, because if it can't be profitable, it is not worth doing. And I also look at what somebody typically pays at a really nice restaurant for a meal, and $125 a person is not out of scope, right? And then you think about what you're getting. So we're at 125 this time. And at the end of it, I'll do the financial report and see, was it worth it? But I really want to go in planning for making a profit, so that we have flexibility if we have any issues come up, and B, we are able to make it worth our while. Because if you're not making any money at it, like, why would you keep putting all of that effort, right? So I think it is very important to think about how you're handling alcohol. And most of the farm to table dinners that I've seen are not serving alcohol, unless they are at a venue that is like permitted for alcohol and has the servers on staff. Which is why we say you can bring your own wine or whatever if you want it, but we're serving coffee and iced tea and water, right? So I think to serve 20 people, we need the chef and his sous chef, which is his wife. And then we will have probably 2 to 3 other staff just working on support and service and that sort of thing. He agrees. I think he actually feels like we're a little overstaffed for serving right now, but I'd rather have more than not enough, right? And then I think that we started planning this in August for November. So you want a few months to plan it, and not like in 2 weeks we're doing this. I should have launched ticket sales in August probably for this, but I wasn't confident I could really pull it all together. Once I knew it would come together was right before SRF. So I soft launched it then, so people knew that it was happening. And then November is our first one. In general, I want a 3-month cycle to sell the tickets and get everything ready. So if we're going to do one in February, I need to already be working on it right now so that it can launch right after the November one, right? So and that means then the February one can be a Christmas present for somebody, which is kind of cool. So having the relationships with the farmers and knowing 3 months in advance you need it really helps with them. So then the last thing to really think about is, how is the day going to flow? Okay, so 5:30 is when appetizers start. Well, what's really going to happen is people are going to get there at 5:30. It's going to take them a half hour of milling around to figure out where they sit and get their cars parked and talk to each other and whatnot. So we start serving apps at about 6 p.m. And then we flow through the meal until they're done. We figure people will be there until 8 p.m., maybe 8:30, depending on what they do. So somebody who wants to come to the wild edible walk needs to get there at about 4:30, do the walk, and then they can flow in, use the bathroom, wash their hands, whatever they want to do, have a beverage. If it's a nice day, they can have a beverage outside, they can have a beverage inside. And depending on the weather, we may put up my event tent outside just so that there's a beverage station for them if they want to like go out there, for example. So from there, the flow goes that each course of the meal has an introduction about the farmers that it's from, what it is, how it was cooked by the chef, and then we serve it to everybody. Then they eat it, and then we come back through and collect and then the next course is something. Right now, I think serving family style with class, so but that allows us to help them know the story, and to the extent that for instance, help us be there, like company for them. So, and I think there can tell the story how they career farm, right? Which is a really cool add-on. So, and I think it's important to balance the experience of camera, keep it short, and let talk. People can use else, or maybe they just like your friends and they want to catch up. It's sort of a responsibility that I have that I'm probably classical in this case. Not for once we don't want, we can then make a decision if this is something we want to sell, make seasonal, one. And once you finish your first one, I think you the factor, which means go change next time to make it smoother. That cycle for them is important, but the other piece is important is people actually, I like when they're get that because once people come to like low come to doing the quality they get, they're going to again. Everybody who's done it for time has done and so I think we do right. We can set the foundation for that. It's a lot to remember to figure out the visual experience, like table sets and that stuff, because it just makes it easier for people. That's not strong to. I have to get for a lot to. Anyway, that's fine. I'll do that and I guess and we'll have different tools. So it's hard for you to be one if it's a pretty two and sharing this meant to be a community and have like but we're putting parties together and then on seeing something happy and I'm pretty excited but actually and I think that can be sort of off in the stands or people can go home with some of our home dried herbs that we have in small jars, things of that nature. We can tell them how to link up with Emily on buying meat, or I'm planning to reach out to Caney Fork Farms for some of their cured meats, like how they can join that. They have a meat CSA and a vegetable CSA. It's another regenerative farm in the area. So all of those things, or go home with a pound of Holler roast coffee, right? They don't have to be there. It's not like an in-your-face thing, but people could also buy that stuff while they're there. So those are my thoughts on how to organize a farm to table dinner. If you think I've missed something or you have other questions, send me an email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it. Go over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more about how to become a member and to connect with all of these fun events that we are putting together. With that, go out, make it a great week.